Who want one last trip to the long trail?
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I have a few topics that I want to talk about or break down for all of you. These topics was hand selected by me, just things that I thought was interesting and kind of stood out in one way or another. We're going to be bounced between tweets from Harada, Tekken Bloodline, Pakistan, Korea, Knee, Arslan. We have a huge scope of topics today. If you enjoy these kind of videos, be sure to like the video and subscribe. We're on the road to 4,000 subscribers. With that being said, the first thing I want to start off with is 3 images that's being shared on social media. These images have to do with Tekken Bloodline, and I know a lot of people has mixed reviews, triangle shadows, there's some retcons, there's some things changed. These 3 images kind of explain all of it, even whether or not it's canon. These images are pulled from a interview / trailer that was released right before Tekken Bloodline went live. I did a video breaking it down in detail, but I actually overlooked these because I was paying attention more so to what was happening in the background than the words itself. I don't know who this is, if it's Michael Murray or Harada's talking, but one of them says, "There are scenes that the anime creators interpreted and created. Some of it is so wonderful that we'd like to use it as official setting of the game. I'd like fans to look forward to that." So I don't know if this is Harada or Michael Murray talking, but basically what they're saying is when making the Tekken Bloodline series, they allowed the Netflix creators to reinterpret, to reimagine, to reshape the story of Tekken 3. And I think this is why we had outcomes like King winning and Anna winning. There's this big argument on whether or not it's canon, but what the developers are going to do, first off, they're acknowledging that there is some good things that was done here, and they're saying that they want to reincorporate, use some of this in the actual canon for the games. If I had to guess on what they were talking about, I think a lot of the elements that happened with Jun Kazama, you talk about her being teleported by Ogre. I think at the end when that lightning struck the cloud, I think that was Ogre escaping, and he's also survived. Tekken Bloodline gave us some of it, some clues, some details, some hints, but Tekken 8 is going to be what really explains it to us. And what I really think is important about these 3 images is the fact that it does confirm that Tekken Bloodline is not canon. Some elements will become canon, but overall right now it's not canon. So that's kind of my thoughts on those 3 images. I just thought it was some really cool stuff there, and I'm interested to see what they decide to keep and get rid of. But moving on to the next topic. What if Mortal Kombat versus Tekken, and you have a photoshopped image of Tekken and Mortal Kombat both together? Harada responds with this and says already exists. But I think it's so funny how Harada trolls the whole Mortal Kombat versus Tekken idea so hard. Deep down inside, what I hope we could get one day is a combination between all of the fighting games. Think Project X Zone 2, but instead of a turn-based game, it's an actual fighting game. Every major fighting game takes like 2 or 3 characters and you just put them on a roster. I don't know if it could be 2D, if it could be 3D, if it can be like Tekken or Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. I don't know, but I just think fighting games are becoming so big nowadays, and I think to see them crossing over in such major ways can be a blessing. I know that kind of game is probably multiple years, maybe even decades away, considering we're getting Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Mortal Kombat 12. MultiVersus is this huge thing. Actually, let's talk about MultiVersus, because I think this game possibly could be that to some extent. So MultiVersus is this big hit. It's kind of changing. I think it's going to change the way fighting games are made. So you have this tweet here. It says US MPD Premium Games, July 2022, top 20 sellers. At the top 20 sellers for July, you have MultiVersus in number 1. Elden Ring is second. Now, just considering how successful this game is, I 100% think it's going to change the way some of these fighting games are made. I'm not saying Tekken 8 is going to be free to play or Street Fighter 6 is going to be free to play, but I would not be surprised if they adapted this sort of free to play model where they add characters for free and instead they try to sell skins, because that's what MultiVersus is doing. Free characters, well, to a certain degree, the characters are in a sort of rotation cycle, but if you want to unlock that character specifically, you have to pay, right? But characters are introduced for free-ish somewhat, but then you pay for skins. The reason why I think this would be the best way to go about this whole new sort of generation of fighting games is because every fighting game is kind of suffering from pay-to-win DLC. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken. All of these games is riddled with pay-to-win DLC, and I think the way we escape that is by skins. I'm going to save that discussion for another video. I want to fully dive into that concept, but just the way that MultiVersus is sort of breaking the mold makes me think back to that, makes me think it's possible, right? The next thing that I want to talk about is a tweet from George PG. If you guys don't know who this is the person who creates the Kunimitsu renders, the Jun Kazama renders. Today we have a Tekken 8 Jun Kazama render. Now there's two variations. You have one where it's normal Jin, and then you have two where he's harnessing the Devil Gene. I really love these screenshots from George PG, and I really suggest you guys go follow them. I don't know how this person creates it, but every single time I see it, I'm just blown away with the level of detail that they're able to cram into these renders. Now the final discussion for this video will be a topic that Spaghetti Rip started on Twitter. Who wins? Pakistan versus Korea? Now this is kind of a big topic in the community right now. Everyone wants to see Knee versus Arslan. We didn't get to see that match at Evo, and now it's like, when will we? But you have some tournaments that's trying to make it happen. Some people are saying, oh, Arslan's coming, Knee, you're invited. Oh, Knee's coming, Arslan, you're invited. But when they actually will meet, it's hard to say. I know that Knee is dominating right now. His Fang is so godlike. There was this Korea versus Japan championship that just happened. I want to read it. Knee with his God Fang single-handedly took Japan in Korea versus Japan championship. This guy's crazy good. And the screenshot that is being shared is Knee literally beating everyone just straight down the list, undefeated. And I think right now Knee is probably playing the best I've ever seen him. I don't know if you go back to Tekken 2 or Tekken 6 or 5 or whatever, but in Tekken 7, this is the best Knee played ever. And I'm interested to see what Arslan Ash can do against this, because Arslan Ash has taken a few losses. He's kind of struggling here and there, and I feel like the ball's in Knee's court right now. Of course, I'm super biased. I'm like a huge Knee fanboy, but at the same time, you can't deny the skill that he's bringing to the table. But when you talk about the whole Korea versus Pakistan, there was a lot of opinions being thrown around saying what the teams should be. You have one saying Knee, Lohai, Ulsan, JDCR, Milo on Team Pakistan. Arslan, Hera, Atif Butt, the John, Always Honey / Bilal. Make it possible. And then someone under says, what about the guy that got second at Evo, Khan? So you can see here, like, no matter how these teams are organized, it's going to be very, like, someone's going to get left off. Like, they're both. That's why people want to see Pakistan versus Korea, because you have so many elite players, and regardless of who you pick for your top 5 or top 6 or top 10, there will always be more people who could definitely perform just as well. Arslan Ash chimes in and says, of course Pakistan, but I'll pick team from Pakistan. He's saying if this was to happen and he was team captain, he would pick his own team, which is kind of interesting because Arslan Ash has a lot of experience now fighting people, you know, all across the world. So his top 5 would be sort of counter picks to all of these different playstyles. He says a team of 5 with Hera, Arslan Ash, Atif Butt, Khan, and Dawood / Always Honey. I don't know who Dawood is, but it says it's too hard to beat. There are a lot of other strong players in Pakistan, but since it's 5v5, and I believe these players are the toughest. I really don't know who Dawood is, but all the others, yeah, these guys are heavy hitters. But now too, Khan uses Geese Howard, and Geese Howard got nerfed. So it makes you wonder, what character would he use? Would he switch to Geese Howard? Would he switch to Akuma? Would he switch to someone else? But at the end of all of the tweets, there was a lot of Pakistani players who was tweeting out this, tweeting out that. Nee responds and says, I don't care what they say before we fight. You should solve the visa problem and come to Korea. Otherwise, 5v5 cannot be achieved. We are always ready. And don't forget that other countries are strong too. Pakistan and Korea are not the only countries in the Tekken world. I really like that response from Nee. One, because he's like, if you guys are talking so much on Twitter, then come to Korea and find out. But also he gives props to other parts of the world. Like EU has been putting up a pretty good fight lately, and you can honestly say if they were to pick 5 players, or if America was to pick 5 players, it probably would go in Pakistan's favor. But I would highly doubt that they wouldn't take at least 2 or 3 people down in the process, you know? Ed responds to Nee and says, visa problem for Pakistanis is a big issue. Korea can easily go to Pakistan. Even a neutral venue like Dubai can do the job. Nee says it's also difficult to enter Pakistan from Korea. It's designated a travel restraint country by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In the past, it was not easy for me to issue a visa. It's sad because it's hard for each other. This is kind of the story when you're talking about Pakistan and Korea and just traveling all across the world, period. TSA Nobi is what it's been called. You really have to like fight before the fight. And I hope one day they truly can get around it and all of these players can meet up. Because I know in EVO, there was a few Pakistani players who didn't make it because of visas. There was a few Japanese players, Korean players who didn't make it because of the pandemic. Some people couldn't leave Vegas because of the pandemic. They had to stay there. So right now it's kind of difficult, but I feel like eventually we'll get to a point where all of these people can collide and battle. The fact that the discussion is happening on Twitter is good, because this is how these things come to life, is by talking about it, discussing it, sharing your ideas. And with this video, I just wanted to do that for all these topics, not just Korea versus Pakistan, but Tekken Bloodline, MultiVersus, and everything else. But that's going to be it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.